together. Our family is one big, beautiful family. We're doing Thanksgiving. We're doing the holidays. We'll do a birthday celebration together. It is a beautiful partnership. I'm very, very proud of that. It's a real thing and it's possible.
They look picture perfect. Holiday smiles, birthday toasts, one big happy blended family. Alicia Keys, Swizz Beatz, Mashonda. 3 names, one polished brand of peace, love, and forgiveness. But behind the filtered photos and carefully crafted captions was a reality far messier than anyone dared to admit. Because here's the truth. One woman lost her husband, another stepped into her shoes, and caught in the middle, a child watching it all play out. For years, Mashonda stayed silent. She smiled through the pain, stood beside the woman who once stood in her home with her man, and kept the peace, even when it nearly broke her. But now the silence is cracking. Because people are asking, was the grown-up co-parenting real? Or just really good PR? Did Alicia Keys actually steal Swizz Beatz? And has Mashonda been biting her tongue, waiting for the right moment to speak her truth? That moment may have just arrived. And what she finally revealed behind closed doors changes everything you thought you knew about this so-called modern love story. The triangle didn't end with a ring, it just got sharper. Stay with us, because once you hear what really went down, you'll never scroll past one of their photos the same way again. To the world watching online, it looked like a miracle. Alicia Keys, Swizz Beatz, Mashonda, all smiles, all peace, all healed. Thanksgiving dinners, birthday parties, family vacations. 3 adults, one blended family, posing like nothing ever went wrong. The captions called it co-parenting, the fans called it goals. The media called it a modern family done right, but not everyone was clapping. Because the moment those photos hit the timeline, something shifted. Some praised Mashonda for her strength, calling it beautiful how she embraced the kids Swizz had with Alicia. But others, they saw straight through it. They called it what it looked like to them, a perfectly staged lie, a rebrand wrapped in heart emojis and filtered forgiveness. Because here's what people didn't forget, how Swizz and Alicia's love story started with whispers, how Mashonda didn't just lose a husband, she got blindsided, and how the woman now playing bonus mom had once been accused of breaking the original family apart. So when those polished, happy family photos started circulating again, one uncomfortable question echoed louder and louder. How in the world did we get from betrayal to beach trips? Stick around, because once you hear what Mashonda actually had to endure to stand in those photos, you'll never see that picture-perfect moment the same way again.
Ooh, she has to heal. She's got to take some time to be by herself. I feel like women are always rushing into a new relationship. You know, they're always trying to live outwardly to heal what's inside, and they travel, they shop, they do all these things that are like distractions, but what it's doing is just adding layers onto the pain. And then when you sit back and you still feel crappy.
It was supposed to be just a song. That's how the headlines spun it in 2008. Alicia Keys and Swizz Beatz, 2 creative powerhouses coming together in the studio. Late nights, shared rhythms, a music collab made in heaven. But somewhere between the bass lines and brainstorming, something else started to build, something far more personal. Because while the world thought they were just making music, insiders saw the truth forming behind closed doors. This was no innocent collaboration. And for Mashonda, the signs weren't obvious. At first, she and Swizz were still married, still raising a son, still sharing a home. But what she didn't know was that Alicia Keys, the woman being introduced as a creative partner, was allegedly living under that same roof, not just making beats, but making moves. Then came the gut punch, public photos, whispers in the blogs, intimate shots of Swizz and Alicia looking a little too close for comfort. To Mashonda, it wasn't just betrayal, it felt deliberate. The message wasn't subtle, you've been replaced. But the drama didn't stop there. Rumors started to swirl around Alicia herself, alleged drama in Aruba, even whispers of a violent altercation with a former girlfriend. Nothing was ever confirmed, but it cracked the surface of her carefully polished image, because the woman who sang about empowerment and soul-deep love was suddenly the center of a scandal that didn't fit her brand. And just when it felt like things couldn't spiral any further, they did. Mashonda saw her marriage unravel, her son caught in the chaos, and Alicia, she wasn't stepping back, she was stepping in. What came next wasn't just heartbreak, it was war, and the fallout would ignite a public firestorm that no PR campaign could put out.
It wasn't easy. It was a roller coaster ride. A lot of prayer, a lot of meditation.
For a long time, Mashonda said nothing. She watched her marriage unravel in real time, watched Alicia Keys and Swizz Beatz post love songs and vacation flicks, while she was left picking up the pieces. No interviews, no tell-alls, no messy headlines. But don't confuse silence with surrender. What looked like grace was pressure, and eventually, it cracked. It all came to a head with one tweet. Alicia Keys posted, "Is it better to go with the choice that is smart or the choice that has spark?" To her fans, it was poetic, innocent. But to Mashonda, it was a gut punch, a reminder, a public jab dressed up like philosophy. That's when she had enough. And instead of firing off a shady tweet or running to a talk show, she wrote a letter. Not just any letter, an open one, addressed directly to Alicia Keys. What came next shattered the image Alicia had spent years was carefully curating, and she didn't hold back. Mashonda revealed she had reached out for 2 years, trying to create peace, only to be met with silence, dismissal, and what she called complete disregard for her child, and her family. She admitted she once admired Alicia, even called herself a fan, but that respect was dead, because as Mashonda wrote, "You know what you did, you know the role you played, and you know how you contributed to the ending of my marriage." And it didn't stop there. Mashonda claimed Alicia wasn't some bystander caught in the drama. She was asked to walk away, begged to give them space to save their marriage. But she stayed, and not quietly. Photos, rumors, red carpets. Mashonda accused her of flaunting the relationship before the divorce was even final. She questioned Alicia's character, her sense of decency, her timing, and most of all, her intentions. Then came the mic drop. She warned Alicia, choose smart over spark, because sparks burn everyone. It was raw, it was real, and it was everything the public had been speculating, but never heard confirmed. This wasn't a tabloid scandal. It was a woman reclaiming her voice and calling out the myth of the graceful exit. But what came next? Even Mashonda's supporters didn't see it coming.
To know why I couldn't go see him at his dad's, and why can't his dad come over and see his bedroom at our house?
Behind the headlines, behind the betrayal, the blog posts, the whispered drama, there was a little boy. He didn't care about music charts or power couples. He didn't understand tweets or tabloids. All he knew was that one day, his dad stopped coming around, and no one could tell him why. For Mashonda, that was the moment everything changed. She could survive heartbreak, she could stomach public humiliation, but watching her son live in confusion, that was unbearable. She remembers it clearly. His tiny voice asking, "Why can't I go to Dad's house? Why can't he come to mine?" He wasn't angry. He was lost. He just wanted normal. He just wanted both of his parents. And that question, it didn't just crack her, it shattered her. But that was only the beginning, because this wasn't just about visitations or custody schedules. It was about something bigger, breaking the cycle. Mashonda realized if she didn't find peace, her son would grow up carrying her pain. If she didn't set the example, he'd inherit her wounds. So she made the hardest decision of all. She picked up the phone, dialed Swizz Beatz, and simply said, "We need to talk." And what happened next shocked even her. It had been over a year since the divorce. No closure, no conversations, just distance. But now, they weren't talking as exes. They were talking as parents. And this wasn't lip service. They did the work. Real therapy, real accountability, real forgiveness, not to get back together, not to fix the past, but to rewrite the future for their child. And just when Mashonda thought it couldn't get harder, it did. Because the next step was Alicia Keys. The woman she once accused of ruining her life was now a permanent part of her son's. Could she really sit beside her at school plays, co-host birthday parties, split weekends, share holidays? Mashonda didn't say yes. She said, "I have to," because her pain had to come second. Her son's peace came first. And just when it seemed like they had built something strong, people started to question it all. Was this real healing or just a rebrand?
Things started off with a little bit of miscommunication and negativity.
To the outside world, it looked like closure. Mashonda, Swizz Beatz, and Alicia Keys smiling in interviews, showing up for their kids, ending every soundbite with, "I'm proud of us." But behind that polished display of unity was a brutal behind-the-scenes battle just to hold it all together. Because after that first phone call to Swizz, the real work began. Late-night conversations, uncomfortable truths, tears that didn't make it to Instagram, therapy sessions that tore open wounds Mashonda thought had already healed. And still, she stayed. Not because it was easy, not because it felt good, but because this was bigger than her pain. She wasn't just trying to forgive a man who betrayed her, or the woman who stood beside him. She was trying to build something new, something her son could grow up inside without shame, without tension, without wondering which parent to love out loud. But it didn't stop with Swizz, because like it or not, Alicia Keys was now part of the family. And instead of pretending it didn't hurt, Mashonda faced it. They all did, together. She and Alicia began checking in, talking, even ending some conversations with, "I'm proud of us." To some, it sounded scripted, like PR, like a good woman act for the public. But for Mashonda, it was survival, a daily choice to rewrite the story, not for social media, but for the little boy watching all of it unfold. But the internet wasn't done watching, because while fans applauded their maturity, others weren't buying it. Was this growth or performance? Had Mashonda truly healed, or was she just playing nice until her son turned 18? Was this forgiveness or quiet resentment buried just deep enough to smile through? And then people started noticing something else. While Alicia was dragged and dissected, Swizz got off easy. Where was his accountability? Why was she the villain when he made the vows? Was it just easier to blame the other woman? The questions got louder, the praise got messier. And Mashonda, she had one more truth to share. And when she said it, it cracked the narrative wide open.
It was really a wake-up call. Even if we don't want to for ourselves right now, we have to do it for him, because he doesn't deserve this.
The smiling Instagram posts, the coordinated interviews, the perfectly blended family. To the public, it looked like healing, growth, maturity. But to others, it looked too clean, too calculated, like a storyline someone wanted us to believe. And soon, the question people had been avoiding became impossible to ignore. Was any of this real, or was it all just for show? Let's be honest, the timeline never quite made sense. Alicia Keys went from alleged mistress to stepmom mom in record time. Swizz Beatz, from married to Mashonda, to posting couple goals with Alicia like nothing happened. And Mashonda, she went from heartbreak to hand-holding co-parent in what felt like emotional whiplash. But that's just the surface, because behind the scenes, the whispers started. First soft, then louder. Sources close to the situation claimed Mashonda never fully forgave Alicia. She just knew how to play it smart. One insider even said she was still holding on to something, and only keeping the peace for one reason, her son. And honestly, you could feel it. The way Mashonda spoke about Alicia, always measured, always polite, but never quite warm. Respectful? Sure. Forgiving? Maybe. But close? Not exactly. And then came the unexpected fallout. Alicia's image took the hit. Even with Grammys on the shelf and millions of fans behind her, the word homewrecker kept following her around. No matter how peaceful the family looked, some fans just never let it go. Her music kept playing, but her public halo, it dimmed. Meanwhile, Swizz Beatz, the man who made the vows and broke them, walked away with barely a scratch. No backlash, no brand damage, just beats, interviews, and applause. And the double standard hit hard. Alicia bore the weight, Mashonda carried the grace, and Swizz stayed in the background, untouched. But here's the part no one expected. Mashonda, the one who kept it all together, started to reflect, and publicly, she admitted something that caught everyone off guard. She questioned how she handled the past, even expressed regret about how publicly she spoke out. And that confession, that single moment of reflection, it shattered the illusion and exposed a side of this story no one saw coming. You won't believe what she revealed next. Years after the headlines faded, when the gossip cooled, the interviews stopped, and the world had mostly moved on, Mashonda did something no one expected. She looked back at the letter that shook the internet, at the scandal that split her life in two, and she said the one word no one saw coming: I regret it. In her 2018 memoir, Mashonda admitted the open letter she wrote to Alicia Keys didn't come from clarity or strength. It came from pain, from ego, from a desperate need to be seen. She was angry, humiliated, heartbroken, and in that moment, she didn't want justice. She wanted validation. But that's not where the story ends, because time and healing changed her. Mashonda said that doing the emotional work, the deep, messy, uncomfortable kind, forced her to confront something bigger than betrayal: herself. And when she didn't just forgive Swizz, she didn't just forgive Alicia. She sat across from them more than once, in therapy, in real conversations, and together they pulled apart years of resentment, regret, and silence. Then they made a decision, not to rehash the past, not to rewrite it, but to rise above it. Not for press, not for social media, but for their kids. Sounds like a happy ending, right? Not so fast, because even with all that growth, people noticed the cracks. The stiff posture in interviews, the perfectly chosen phrases, the too good to be true, I'm proud of us moments. To critics, it didn't scream healing. It whispered performance. And while Mashonda now describes her relationship with Alicia as loving, some fans aren't convinced. They think she's learned how to coexist, how to smile through it, how to put her son's peace above her own pain. Because forgiveness, that's one thing, but forgetting, that's something else entirely. And now the cameras are starting to fade. Her son is growing up, the pressure to protect the narrative fading with him. Which begs the question, when she's no longer protecting anyone, will Mashonda finally speak her real truth? Stick around, because the next chapter may be the one she never got to tell until now.
That unity. And I don't want people to think that, blending is easy. It's not. It takes a lot of self-work, a lot of healing, a lot of letting go.
These days, Mashonda, Alicia Keys, and Swizz Beatz talk less about fame and more about legacy. Not charts, not headlines, but the emotional imprint they'll leave behind, especially on their kids. They speak about healing, growth, redemption. They say they're showing their children that even the messiest chapters can still lead to something meaningful. And from the outside, it looks like a triumph. They co-parent, they celebrate each other's wins. They end interviews with soft smiles and words like, I'm proud of us. It's the kind of peace most people only fantasize about after betrayal, and almost no one actually achieves. But even with all the progress, one question still lingers in the background. Is it real? Or just rehearsed? Because while they speak of unity, the internet never forgot how it began. One woman lost her marriage, another gained a husband, and both were expected to move on gracefully, as if none of it ever happened. But that's not the whole story. Mashonda has always been clear. She didn't do it to play saint. She did it for her son. She went to therapy. She swallowed pride. She showed up to co-parent with the very woman who once lived under her roof. Not because she wanted to, but because her child deserved peace, not war. But now, that child is older, and the need to protect the illusion, it's not as urgent as it used to be. Some believe Mashonda still carries that weight, that behind the calm is a woman who simply adapted, that if not for her son, this story might have ended very differently. And the truth is, it still might, because when the kids grow up, the masks come off. People start living for themselves again. They stop biting their tongues. They stop playing roles. And maybe that's why, years later, this story keeps coming back. Because it never really ended. It just went quiet. So where does that leave them? Mashonda, Swizz, Alicia. It leaves them inside a legacy that's still unfolding, still fragile, still unfinished. And the real question isn't who won or who forgave who. It's this: can something built on betrayal ever really become whole? Or is the peace we see now just a polished version of the pain that never left? One thing's for certain, this was never a love story. It was a survival story. And it's not over yet.
Statements. Is that the first indication that something was wrong?
That's a true statement, but that wasn't the first, no.
Time has moved on. The headlines have faded. But somehow, Alicia Keys is still haunted by a past the internet refuses to forget. The hits still coming. The Grammys keep stacking. The sold-out shows, check. But the label, it's stuck. Homewrecker. And here's the question people can't stop asking. Why her? Why still? Swizz Beatz made the vows. Swizz broke them. Yet while he kept collecting deals, features, and praise, Alicia took the fall. She became the villain in a drama she didn't write, but somehow got cast as the lead. And just when you think it couldn't go deeper, Alicia didn't just fall from grace. She shattered the image fans thought they knew. The woman behind Superwoman, behind sisterhood and empowerment, now stood accused of betrayal. And to millions, that cut deeper, because they expected more. And even today, some fans say they can't hear her music the same way. Lyrics about truth and love feel complicated, like they're coming from someone who never fully owned her truth, never fully answered for what went down. But here's where it gets real uncomfortable. That happy red carpet ending, it didn't heal the wound, it just covered it. For many, the silence spoke louder than any statement ever could. And that silence, it turned into suspicion. Was it all just a carefully curated comeback? Now, Alicia's legacy sits on a fault line. On one side, loyal fans preaching growth and forgiveness. On the other, skeptics, convinced it was all just image control. And here's the twist. As Mashonda's voice starts shifting and her son grows older, that fault line may finally crack. If the truth ever surfaces, Alicia could face a reckoning far bigger than any tabloid scandal. Because some stories don't stay buried, and this one might just be ready to explode. So, what are we really looking at? A scandal that should have torn everyone apart, repackaged as a story of growth, healing, and grown-up co-parenting. Alicia Keys, Swizz Beatz, Mashonda. They turned one of the most talked-about betrayals of the 2000s into a brand of blended family perfection. Same red carpets, same family dinners, same Instagram captions, "I'm proud of us." But behind those smiles were wounds that never fully healed, and maybe never will. Mashonda's open letter wasn't just messy, it was raw human pain, broadcast for the world. A woman pushed past her limit, speaking on behalf of every person who's ever felt discarded, replaced, invisible. Alicia's silence? Some called it mature, others called it calculated. And Swizz? He glided through it all, building businesses, dropping beats, and dodging the accountability that crushed the women on either side of him. Now, all these years later, their child is growing up. And with that, the need to keep the peace, to protect the illusion, may be fading. So what happens when the shield drops? When there's nothing left to lose? And finally, nothing left to protect? Because if this story has taught us anything, it's this. Time doesn't heal all wounds. It just covers them up until someone decides to tell the truth. So now, we want to hear from you. Do you believe Mashonda truly forgave Alicia? Did Alicia ever take real ownership of what happened? And why has Swizz been allowed to walk away with barely a scratch? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't hold back, because this story isn't just about celebrities. It's about love, power, motherhood, image, and the lies we all tell, just to keep going. And one thing's for sure, this conversation, it's far from over.